The screen won't be clear otherwise, huh? At the end of it, then, what should we do at the end? No, ask. They'll be able to see. Other, otherwise, otherwise we'll do it at the end. Okay, अरे यार. Okay. And if, well, let them get an idea. When you want, tell me to start. Which, can we start now? Okay, we've got about an hour. I'm hoping to sort of round up a little early so that we still leave some time for questions. Okay, let's hope. Otherwise, come personally and let's have a private session one-on-one with people. Okay, so let me see what the subject. I mean, what the exact title is. Um, mhm. So the next topic that I'm going to be dealing with is, this is not correct, is the di- African diaspora in India. So what I'm doing is now switching in not Indians in East Africa and South Africa, but Africans in India. Okay? Um, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the fact that there are anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 people of African descent living in India. Okay? 50,000 is the number that is generally given, but I suspect there are more. These are Africans who have migrated to India. And if at any point you can't hear, there's a lot of disturbance somewhere. These are, stop me or stop so we can do something. These are Africans who migrated to India over a period of more than 700 years. Okay? So generally, all the scholarship deals, all the scholarly materials, is there a lot of disturbance for them? I, because if it's the mic, I can do away with the mic. हाँ? दूर रखें. Otherwise, I can take out the mic. I have a very buland awaz. I can use it because there's a lot of disturbance for you. Is better? Okay, because that much all the time I don't know, the sound. Um, okay, is that clear? These people have migrated to India from the continent of Africa, as I said, over a period of more than 700 years. It is wrong to assume that all of them came to this country as slaves. It is a total misnomer to think that they came as slaves. Over these 700 years, the Africans came, of course, there was slavery, particularly under the rulers. So they came as slaves. They also came as mercenaries. And you know what mercenaries are. They volunteer to fight in the army as soldiers. They came as sailors, okay, and on ships that are called dhau. This is the main way that people used to travel from India to Africa and Africa to India. It's a sailboat, and you can see examples of it in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and places like that. And they settled mainly in Gujarat, in Goa, in Karnataka, in Andhra Pradesh, in Sindh, and Pakistan. Okay. Now, why all those places? Why are the Africans over 700 years settling in Gujarat and Karnataka and Goa and so and so? So let's, before we move to the next slide, I want you to see this is from my book. It's my photograph, which is much better than what you see on the screen. This is a book that came out about 10 years ago. And what you see are Siddhi children in Ahmedabad. So I decided 10 years ago, my mother was unwell and I was taking care of her. And I said, what am I going to do? Look after a sick. I loved her, but I was spending so much time getting depressed with her aging. She was in her 90s. I said, let me do something 1 hour away from the home. And I got into this project. There is a community of Africans in Ahmedabad which nobody knows about. Indians are also racist. It's in a place called Patthar Kua, and you understand the term, Patthar stone, Kua, well. And you can go all the way to Patthar Kua and still you go and ask somebody, you go take a rickshaw and you go and then you get down and you say, I want to find out where the Siddhis live. Nobody knows. The good Jews don't know because they don't bother to find out about the Africans. Okay, so this is, anyway, that's how I started doing my field work. And I was hooked. I could not give up. They became my friends. I would go back again and again to ask them questions. Always the women were the ones I enjoyed because they gave me information. I could sit and chat with them. And so this photograph was taken of the Siddhi children during one of my visits. Last year when I went there, I often pay a social call to all my buddies there. Most of these girls, the one at the top, including the little girl with a lovely smile there, married with children. And I realized, oh, Baba, I am getting very, very old. I don't feel it, but I am an old lady because these children whom I knew as children are now. Okay, let's move on to the next one. It's taken in Patthar Kua, out just to see the girl, beautiful. I am very enchanted by such big eyes and such wonderful expressions. Can we move to the next? Okay, now you will understand why um, uh, we have Siddhis living in, and I'm going to get up and show you. We have Gujarat there, Goa, Kutch, Punjab, Pakistan, and then you come down Ahmedabad, where Sachin, we'll talk about that. And wait a second. Yeah. And then there are Siddhis in Maldives. There are Siddhis actually in Sri Lanka, okay? And there are Siddhis in Pakistan and Sindh. So the reason you see them all along the west coast of Africa is because in a sea journey, 700 or 1,000 years ago, it was possible to move from the east coast of Africa. You see Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, Zanzibar. Okay? To travel in a dhow from east coast of Africa, you didn't need any sophisticated equipment. You just got into the dhow, and a few months later, after a fairly rocky journey on the seas, you arrived on the west coast of Africa, which is Gujarat and Goa, and that's why you find so many Siddhi. Sometimes it is very important to understand the geography, because the geography explains to you things that other things don't. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, very quickly, this is what a dhau looks like. I'm not sure I would want to make a journey today in a dhau from Kenya, where I often go to Gujarat. Uh, but they are very sturdy, very beautiful, and they transported thousands. We are talking 100,000 people over a period of many years. Who are these Africans? How are they referred to? So depending on where they are found in India and South Asia, they are called by different names. In Gujarat, where they came, my state originally, though I never lived there until now, they are called Siddhis. Okay, Sidis, double D sometimes. In other places, they are called Shidis. Okay, but whether and negative names given sometimes to them is Habshi, okay, which actually I don't use too much because I think it is a derogatory term. But really, when you look at the origin of the word Habshi, it means that they are from Habash or Ethiopia. And that's where a lot of them came from. Okay. Now in Gujarat, they are referred to as Habshi in somewhat of negative way. So I prefer to use the word Siddhi. They are called Siddhi, Shiddi. And as I said, they moved. Now, because this is a workshop on diaspora, I want to draw your attention to the fact that these people are relocating from their homes wherever they were in East Africa to different places in western part of India. Huh? So what was today? Okay, we are back here. But please, let's have a lively discussion whenever she says tomorrow or whatever, whatever. Okay. I didn't know tutorial. Okay, we talked about where they are settled. Can we? So the next thing I want to talk about is that since we are focusing on migration and diasporic experiences, we want to talk about some key things applying them to the Africans who came to India, the Siddhis or the Shiddhis or the Siddhis or whatever. Um, we want to start off by talking in terms of assimilation and adaptation. So you want to bear these two key words in mind. Assimilation is the extent to which a migrant leaving behind their home and coming to a new land adapts themselves, fits themselves into the new culture, into the host country, and uh, adopt certain customs, duties, religious beliefs, whatever it may be, and they are, in other words, becoming assimilated into the culture, the traditions of the host country. Okay? It's always, assimilation is always a partial thing. Okay? It is never total assimilation, but it is a very important thing. It is a form of adaptation, so you are able to fit in rather than stand out. Huh? And so, how did these Africans, over a period of 700 years, assimilate into Indian culture? The one thing, because we are talking about language, that comes to mind is that linguistically, they assimilated into the languages that they found themselves in the environment. So the Siddhis who settled in Gujarat over a period of 700 years speak Gujarati. Okay? You would be surprised, but the Siddhis in Goa speak Portuguese, okay, because they assimilated into the mainstream culture. The Siddhis in Karnataka speak Kannada, okay. So basically, we are seeing a very successful adaptation, which is linguistic in nature. Wherever they settle down, be it Gujarat, be it Goa, be it Karnataka, be it Sindh. In Sindh, Pakistan, they speak Urdu. Okay? And this was a form of assimilating into the culture of the home country. So one form of assimilation is linguistic. I found this particularly useful to me, though I do speak Hindi, I understand some Urdu or used to, but because the Siddhis in Gujarat spoke Gujarati, it gave me an entryway, a doorway, by speaking their language, entering into their lives and speaking in their language, which is also happened to be my language, Gujarati. And that made it very much easier to become friends with them, to communicate with them, to win their trust, all of which is very important if you're going to work amongst a community. The other is dress. Okay, I don't know. I mean, I should know, but see, these came from the African continent, and they must have worn all kinds, manner of African clothes in their homeland or the country of their birth. But when they came to India, they borrowed the dress modes of India, where the region in which they were living. So in Ahmedabad, the Siddhis, who are mostly Muslim, who had converted to Islam, are wearing salwar and kurta. And it was very easy to sort of merge into that community wearing a salwar kurta and a chunni because they are there. So Siddhis are doing that in every place that they are finding themselves at. So dress can also be a form of adaptation, of, of assimilation. And the third, a little bit more difficult, is food. I did not eat many meals with the Siddhis, partly because I didn't, they are poor. and you don't want to partake of their hospitality. But when I asked them what do they eat for lunch, what do they eat for dinner, they said, "Ame tamara jem. We, like you, eat dal bhat, dal and rice, rotli shak, roti and sabzi, okay, which is pretty much what you see in much of India. And that's what they are eating. So they are assimilating whatever foods, African foods they had eaten there, they are now adapting to the society in which they find themselves. All of these are important in some ways to fit in for diasporic people. It's very important. Um, the area in which, and to some extent, they also, and we'll talk about the complexities of this area, they also adopted the religious traditions and customs and habits and beliefs of the people with whom they found themselves. So in Gujarat, the Siddhis often do practice certain rituals which are inherently, traditionally Gujarati in nature. Huh? They are Muslims, so they are Gujarati Muslims, but they are practicing pretty much what the Gujarati Muslims in Gujarat do. So they are adapting to the religion. In Goa, which I didn't go to do my field work, a lot of the Siddhis became Christians, okay, became Catholics because the Portuguese influence. And in Karnataka, where they had found themselves, they became Hindus and they worship Hindu gods and goddesses and practice. So once again, you are seeing religious, dress, food, linguistic um, adaptation, and partial or whatever greater assimilation. To me, what was more interesting, and I'll get to that in a minute, the Siddhis, I have to mention that despite everything, in India, and I don't know about Pakistan, and I don't know about Sindh, and I can't speak for Maldives, but in India, the Siddhis, Africans, migrants in India, have been the subject of tremendous amount of silent discrimination and prejudice. I'm sad to say that, but it is reality, okay? Um, in Gujarati, and I will share this with you, and I'm always embarrassed to do that because I do come from Gujarat. Um, they refer to the Siddhis in Gujarati language as Kalia. You understand. Kalia means the black one. And I heard this term also in East Africa amongst the East African Asians when they referred to the Africans. There's an underlying strain of color prejudice that is deep rooted in India. And we can't get away from it. I don't think we should deny that it is there. We should confront it. We should challenge it. We should change it, but we can't deny it is there. And Indians are, when it comes to color, and one of my lectures on, I believe, the fourth or the fifth day, I'm getting totally lost now, is about the color prejudice in India. Okay, because I felt I needed to write a book on that because I was getting so agitated about the color prejudice of Indians and that. Yeah. But the Siddhis are victims of discrimination. If you take a rickshaw in Gujarat, anywhere, and you ask them and say, uh, do you know where the Siddhis are? They don't know. Do you know where the descendants of Africans are? They don't know. Nobody. They don't know or they don't want to know. They are the forgotten people in India. And, okay, they are the hidden ones. They live in Patthar Kua in Ahmedabad. Even Ahmedabadis who are local don't know where they are. I had to face a lot of dhakka before I could find their homes because nobody could guide me. I was walking. Nobody could tell me, go here, go left, go straight, and you will come to the homes of the cities. No, because they don't know. They are kept at a distance. So sadly, they are the subjects of, and word like Kaliache, clearly is a derogatory term. They are blacks. Okay? If Indians suffered in East Africa and South Africa as victims of racism on the part of the British, they are practicing this on the Africans in India, and it probably should change. What interested me most about the Siddhis is cultural retention. Okay? And this is a very important part of any diaspora. How much of the culture of their mother country, in this case the continent of Africa, do these migrants bring with them? And over a period here of 700 to a nearly 1,000 years, how much have they really retained in this new homeland that they call India or Pakistan or Sindh or whatever? And this was of particular interest. Now, here it was really interesting. Unlike in Hinduism, it's a little different in Hinduism. The Siddhis worship saints, okay? Their primary form of worship is the worship of what they call saints. Their founder, to them, the founder of the Siddhi clan, of all, the ancestor of all the Siddhis, is a leader, um, teacher, a saint, whatever they believe a saint, called Baba Ghor, Ghor, Baba Ghor. And they venerate and revere Baba Ghor as their founding father. But what is most fascinating is that in addition to Baba Ghor being the object of reverence and veneration, Siddhi men and women, and children of course, also consider and as sacred and paid honor to and reverence to saints who are women. Four of them at least, all sisters of Baba Ghor. And the most important one is somebody called Mai, M-A-I, Mishra. Okay, Mishra as in, you understand, Mishra, and her three sisters. And Mai Mishra is paid tremendous amount of honor at all religious ceremonies and rituals. So one of the things that separates Siddhis from other communities in India is the equal veneration given to the founders, who are both men and women. And they are Baba Ghor and Mai Mishra and her sisters. And this is very important. There's a special, when the Siddhis dance, and it's wonderful dancing, they use rattles, okay, besides other, and they call the rattle itself Mai Mishra, okay, so the rattle itself is called Mishra, Mai Mishra, and the Siddhi music and dance, the dance is called Dhamal. Some of you may have heard of it. It's very Okay, it's very energetic. Can we move on to the slide just to, okay, I'm not going to spend time on this, and this is very beautiful. You've got to come to Ahmedabad and I'll escort you on a trip here. It's a mosque, Sidi Sayyid Ni Jali. Sidi Sayyadni Mosque, a beautiful architectural building which stands in the middle of Ahmedabad, in the heart of Ahmedabad, and very intricate stonework. I apologize because of the lighting, but let's move on. You just have to believe me, and you can see a close-up of the one jali of the Sidi Sayyad Mosque, and it's beautiful, intricately worked stonework, and it is a monument of great pride for Ahmedabad. Can we move on? Another one, come here, and don't ask me to go up with you, Julta Minar. Okay, you go up climb up there. When I was younger, I could do it. Now, I think I would start collapsing. You go up there and you move one of these pillars, okay? I'm not asking you to do it. I don't know how risky it is now. The, the, the other one will move. You can see it move. Tremendous architectural genius, built by, constructed by the Siddhis. Okay, a real monument in Ahmedabad, a real something that Ahmedabadis are very, very proud of. Okay, okay. Can we can we move on? Okay, I want to point out that while slaves in the New World remained forgotten people in United States, in the Caribbeans, in the New World society, not so in India. The Africans in India were able to, not everybody, but able to rise from the position, the lowest position, sailor, slave, concubine, mercenary, and rise to the position of being rulers and sultans in India. So here you have a very interesting, you won't be able to see it, so you got trust me to, you see Jahangir, the Mughal ruler, he's standing on, sorry, very proudly standing on a globe, very symbolic. Jahangir is the ruler of the whole world. The entire world is under his suzerainty. And so the world of the ocean, the land, represented by a cow, which you can't see very clearly, both the oceans and the land are under Jahangir. He is trying to shoot at the head of an African. And the African he's trying to, and it is all imaginary. He didn't ever do it, but it was desire on his part to, to shoot, to kill and destroy Malik Ambar, who was an African, a Siddhi, who had risen to the very powerful position. So the fact that we have a painting showing, and see all the Christian whatever on the top, but the head there is Malik Ambar being portrayed as though only his head is shown. His eyes are looking up as though he's gone, he's dead anyway, and all imaginary on the part of Jahangir. He never managed to destroy the power of Malik Ambar. Let's move on, please. That's our man Malik Ambar. Okay? He was very, very powerful in Ahmednagar. And many of the Siddhis who rose to power they started off in lower positions as, and then because of capabilities, because of military strength, because of their intelligence, because of the trust that the local ruler or king placed in them, they were able to rise to positions to actually become the rulers themselves. And this is actually it's a very beautiful portrait of Malik Ambar, who ruled over Ahmednagar, the state of Ahmednagar. Okay, let's move on. Just okay, another Siddhi ruler. You see, a lot of very elegant clothing. You can see the transparency, very much like in Hindu rulers, except that you look at his face, you look at his hands, and you know that he is an African. But he's risen to the highest ranks. Okay, let's move. Yet another Siddhi, okay? Proud, very well known in history, and you see with such arrogance and such proud. So this is what makes the Africans in India or the Siddhis in South Asia separates them from the Africans in the New World slavery. That New World slaves, it's taken how many years for President Obama to become president? And it was unprecedented. When I went to America, we couldn't dream that there would come a day when Obama, African man, and you know Obama's father was from Kenya, so he was half African, that African would rise to the position of the highest office in United States. And you know how the CDs responded to that. I was in Ahmedabad then during the elections, and I went to Patthar Kuam, and the CDs were rejoicing. I mean, they were saying he is our man. Okay, they are taking total responsibility for Obama being African, which he was. He was half African, and they celebrated his victory with song and dance in ways that you would never imagine, because this was their man. Pride in the fact that Obama's ancestry was African. So this is, when people talk about the slave trade of the New World, I always remind my students, don't get stuck on thinking that slaves remain slaves. Slaves in other parts of the world rose to the top positions of government. They married into high families. A very good example, in the map I had shown you, there are two states in the western part of India called Janjira and Sachin. You can go to both of them, Sachin and Janjira. And in both of those, they claim to have African ancestry and have married into African families, okay? The only, with not just, they didn't always marry Africans, but they claim African ancestry. The king, the rulers now, the Nawab, no longer rulers, the Nawab of Sachin and Janjira. And you can still go there, western coast of India, in Gujarat, near Goa, and they, in Maharashtra, I suppose, and they claim African ancestry. And the only non royalty that the only other kind of marriages they contracted was with a noble family in India, all noble families, Rajput families or daughters of Rajput families. So they rose to very high ranks and considered themselves the elite. Okay, so again here you are seeing some real major differences with the um, the CDs who write. Let's move and see some. Okay, Malik Ambar again. So proud, and look at his stance. He doesn't look like an African slave. He may have begun as whatever, a mercenary, but now he's in total control. Let's move. Okay. A CD on the left, one of the rulers. He's very, look at the dress, very trusted person talking to one of the rulers. And you have to read my book there. Let's move on just to give you an idea of the, again, uh, this is a CD slave, but they too exercise some power in the state that they found themselves in. You can clearly see his features are African features. Okay, let's move on. Today, the CDs in Gujarat and probably Karnataka and probably Goa. Yes, yes, of course, most certainly. Okay, I'll do my best to answer that. My own feeling is that what the Siddhis have done in India, once they became diasporic Indians, is to combine the culinary talents of Africa or the specialties of Africa and assimilate that into the cuisine of India. So, see, these will eat Gujarati type of food, but retain, because they are Muslims, they are eating meat. They will also retain some of the African cuisine, traditions of African food. So I can only answer that very partially, that I don't know about food. I don't have much experience with Siddhis in Goa, but food remains still, even though they don't completely adopt Indian diet, cuisine, it remains the arena of women's activity. And you know, it is a site, it is a space for women to exert their solidarity. It is around cooking and feeding and eating that women feel empowered. Okay? And cuisine is very important. You know, food, you show your love through food. And so I don't know if I'm fully answering. We should talk a little bit more about that. But I think there was a tremendous amount of adaptation and assimilation in terms of cuisines of India, wherever they found themselves, and, and the African cuisine. Does that sort of answer? Yeah. Is that some? Does that answer something? Okay, okay. And we can come back to any, I'm just keeping track of, we still have time. So let me rush through and see if there's anything. Um, how are the CDs described in literature? Very little work has been done on CDs in India in the local literature, literary genres of India. I'm really familiar only with that in Gujarat. And there are short stories. Many of them mention the Siddhis. Many of them also in the short stories refer to their bravery, their gutsiness, their courage, their valor. But there is also an underlying prejudice that you can read into, and I would imagine that is similar in all the others. And it is entirely true that no matter how many hundred years they have been, they are still outside of the Indian culture. They are still on the fringes of Indian culture. Okay? Yes. Okay. No, not in Karnataka. No, uh-huh. Mung, is Yellapur also in Karnataka? Yes. Okay, I'm familiar with Yellapur, huh? And now you know it's on your shoulder to go and study the CDs of Karnataka, huh? Of course. I'm Yes, yeah. No, I'm just going to prop you up. You are going to be the main person, huh? Of course, absolutely. You know, these are the kinds of things I want coming out of a workshop like this. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. That's very really it's worth studying. Yes, very good, very good. And that's why we need to do. But no, Indians don't bother to work on this, huh? Scholars would rather work on the British Empire or this or that. It's a neglected subject. Okay, are we running short now? Okay, should I wind up? Okay. Um, let me I want to really conclude, and we'll have enough time for discussion some other time, or off session or in session. Um, while the Siddhis have absorbed into the mainstream Indian culture in some ways, I want to suggest that in no way have they totally abandoned their African identities. You need to only go on Google and put in Siddhi Dhamal or Siddhi Goma, and you will see wonderful. Can we quickly I should quickly move. There should be there. This is not Indians dancing. This is African doing their dhamal, okay? And you will see a lot of that. The last thing I want to mention, so that this is again what somebody should study, see the dance, for example. The last thing I, now I'm losing track of my time and everything, is that see the women have not remained quiet. They have not remained without power. So there are at least, I'm just going to pull 2 or 3 examples. The first woman in India to be a ranger in a forest with wild animals is a Siddhi woman, a young Siddhi girl, okay? Because in the Gir forest, and I don't know how many of you have gone to Gujarat, but otherwise go, Gir is well known for its lions, the wild lions, the largest population outside of Africa. And she is, this young girl was trained. She is the first woman ever to be a forest ranger. The other is a young Siddhi girl, and Siddhi girls are doing this way. There's a lot of training projects going on in athletics and sports in schools for Siddhi children, and at least a handful of Siddhi girls have made it to the top. So they are in national competitions. Not surprising. You know, when I went to Africa, people would always say the Africans have stamina and vitality and strength and energy. And if that is the case, genetically or whatever, then it stands to reason that if trained properly, an African girl or of African origin will have the same genetic makeup to make her into a brilliant sportswoman. And so you see wonderful examples of Siddhi girls now graduating from schools, going to college, getting scholarships because they are excellent sportsmen and they are representing India not only in national competitions but in international competition. And this is a subject that is enormously exciting to study. Okay, are we done with this or this is it? Okay, we can move on. This is, see these. Anything else? Okay, we can move on. Oh, sometimes in paintings, Siddhi men were often shown as guards or they held the weapons of the Raja. But you see, by simply looking at the color, you can identify this one Siddhi. Huh? The paintings are really, sometimes you just want to look at art. Okay, can we move on? No, let's move on. Once again, look at this young man here, the young man there, the young man with weapons, the hookah bearers, or whatever, weapon holders. I see at least 3 of them here, 1, 2, and 3 at the bottom. They were valuable to the rulers also. So it's a way of looking at paintings also. Why are they being neglected by art historians? It's a way to look at the paintings and say, hey, there are Siddhis here. And the last thing, do we have 2 minutes or no? Can we show them Kawandi or no? Okay, let's do that. The Siddhi women have taken up another thing that is economically supporting them. I'll show you that. I absolutely, particularly want women to see. If you ever see a Kawandi, get one for me. In order to gain economic independence, in order to be self-reliant, Siddhi women, old and young, are weaving, are engaging in making not carpets, but I don't know what they're called, daris. They're called Kawandi, Kawandi. And I'll show you the most beautiful example. Ever since I've been aspiring last 10 years to get a Kawandi for my self-collection, but not yet successful. And this is a way that they can make money. They're sitting at home, they have young children, they can't get out of the house until they are older, and they sit weaving together these dharis or whatever with the most amazing colors. They are inspired maybe by the colors of the African continent which run in their blood, but they are doing beautiful work and also in the process now making money so that Kawandis are being sought after in places around the world and fetching big time money. So we look at Kawandis next now. Okay, I'm now waiting for whoever. Thank you so much, Maisha. Huh? Thank you. Yeah. Is there time for question? Okay. Okay. I'm like you. I'm listening, taking orders from above.
Ma'am,
Above.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Question.
May I? So, ma'am, as we know that Mahatma Gandhi led a movement in Africa
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
against racism. So why couldn't he do anything for Siddhis, which were there in Gujarat?
Very good question. Gandhi is not there to answer it for me. I wish.
He's
But,
within you.
but I'm going to find out. You know, my sense is that he learned on the job also. So he comes back as a young lawyer. They can't hear me? Oh, yo. This thing is going to. If I hold it like this, can you hear me? I'm so sorry. I'm not used to it. I shout in my classroom, so they don't want me to use a mic at all. Is that okay for you? Okay. Sorry about that. Huh? So where were we? Now, see, I've lost my forgotten. Hmm? Okay, Gandhi. The question. I think Gandhi comes back as a young man and gets into the freedom struggle, learning on the job, like every other thing, you have to make choices. Okay, he believed that the first priority was to gain independence for all Indians, regardless of color, class, caste, whatever. Okay, the way he didn't distinguish between independence for upper caste versus lower caste or untouchables. I mean, he was a great one for fighting for untouchables. I think to some extent I have to say, and not Gandhi, you can't blame Gandhi for color prejudice because he experienced color in South Africa. When he was moving about in a train, that was the first encounter with racism and colorism. But I think you can do only this much in a lifetime. When I meet Gandhi in the afterworld, I will ask him why he didn't do much for the Siddhis who are so close to my heart. But it's very true. If you ask the Siddhis, nobody has done anything for them. And I always dream, you can't get rich on my job, and I'm totally retired. But if I do get rich or my husband gets rich, I would do something for the Siddhis because they've given me much and I would like to give back something. Maybe establish schools for them. Maybe encourage them to go to college. Maybe encourage them to come to Aligarh, and I would give the scholarship to them. So, oh yeah, there is still hope. Don't forget the CDs. Keep them in your heart and in your mind. And if you come, I will take you to Patthar Kua. A lot of the ones, my contacts are gone.
Ma'am, as you have written so many books on Siddhis, so how your work can, influence the policy making vis-a-vis Siddhis in our
Nobody
country?
cares. I'm just an academic. Chodo, now I'm a completely forgotten. I mean, do you think the politicians are reading books? If they were, they would be behaving better. They would be
Ma'am,
administering
but
better.
when we apply for certain projects, so they ask how your work can be, relevant for policy
Totally,
making and all.
totally. You should do that.
It's the
Say
inner
that
politics.
you should say that you're doing work on the CDs or you're doing this work or something, and that you think there are neglected people. They are Indians. They've been here for 700 years, so they are Indians. But I think it's well worth it. They get they get forgotten in the ranks. I mean, it's other people who get the funding. So it is sad. It is very sad, and there is color prejudice without any question in India. Okay. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm totally uncomfortable with the
Good
mic.
evening, ma'am.
Ah, good.
So I have this question that you talked about cities in Gujarat and how unknown they are to the Gujarati people. Similarly, in densely populated areas, nice societies in Gujarat, even Muslims are not populated there. Their societies accept they're not a part of that society. So can you, because you're a Gujarati, can you speak about that complex society structures that are there in India and especially in Gujarat?
You mean the differences?
Yes, ma'am. Like cities are diasporic, but still Muslims are still the inhabitants of Gujarat. But still, the society, like in Gandhinagar, you don't see a trace of a Muslim person there. So I just wanted to know what are these complex society structures that create differences.
I don't. It depends on what time period we are talking about. Right now, and I think if there's anybody from the government, I'll be hauled off to the prison. But right now is one of the worst times in India. Uh, Let me put it differently, politely. These are difficult times for Muslims in India, but specifically in Gujarat. Okay? There's been a lot of problems. Eh? And I think Indian society needs to overcome that. We have to stop. It is perfectly appropriate to follow your religious tradition, and but we need to teach our children to respect every religious tradition and honor them and not discriminate against them in any way. And I think we are very far from that, either here or in other parts of the world. I mean, we are talking about poor Siddhis, but worse still, I mean, Siddhis came from Africa as diasporic people. I, a lot of my work some years ago was on the Native Americans of America. They were the first Americans. The white Europeans, the Anglo-Saxons came to America, took their lands, took their lives, learned from them, and then pushed them into the reservation. So in fact, at my college, I insisted, I said, why is there no course on Native American cultures? Why am I teaching African history and Indian history and Chinese history and Japanese history? Why don't you hire a trained person to teach Native Americans, and they are the first Americans? Without them, you wouldn't be all around. And they said, nobody will teach it. And I'm totally cheeky. I said, give me 1 year, give me leave, pay me to go to all the reservations, and I'll come back with a course on the cultures of Native America. And when, yes, and I was going to conclude by saying that that was the course that was the most popular at my college, the cultures of Native America. But nobody cares about them, right? I apologize. I've taken more time, but we have time tomorrow, and you can always talk to me informally. Thank you very much, everybody. It's a pleasure. बोलो. Okay, now I have to make sure मैं गलती कुछ ना करूँ. Okay, now tomorrow.